I want to thank everyone who contributed to the debate. I want, if I can, in my 10 minutes, just to respond to the various points, as many as I can, raised by the deputies, which I was able to hear in the chamber. Unfortunately, Mr. Smith was here for the earlier addresses, but I want to come back very quickly, if I can. It'll be rapid fire, but I think it's appropriate. Firstly, Deputy Paul Murphy. That 2018 figure, this government started in the year 2020, and that was the first recorded period back that we could measure our emissions from. We have to set ourselves a target. I agree with him when he says we have to be careful of what you might call techno-optimism. There's going to be some easy, magical technological solution, but there are technologies coming, but it requires more than anything else political will. And I think we have to be careful of false promise that everything can come for free, be it public transport or any other service, is one point I would differ and disagree with him. With regard to Deputy Lahart, I would also agree with him. He was interesting referring to that Don't Look Up movie in terms of actually how we communicate this, how we explain it, how we listen, how we engage is going to be critical, more important than all the technological issues. And one thing I'd say, it's true, and I appreciate what he said in terms of the role of our party in the years in raising the alarm, in looking up and looking ahead. But now it belongs to every party and every independent in this Dáil. This is not an issue that can work if it's seen as partisan, if it's seen belonging to one political family and not another. It has to belong to everyone if we're going to make the scale and leap and jump that we have to make. With regard to Deputy Flaherty, I absolutely agree with him and many others here today who have to help our people through this particular difficult time in cost of living. And I would say in that we should first and foremost look at a lot of the measures that the government have put in place. Some €2 billion funding, but also a lot of measures that I think can be an immediate solution. The likes of that 80% grant for retrofitting. It does give, if attic and wall insulation, it's about a 25% cut in the average bill at a time when prices have just gone up by 25%. And those measures are real, and those measures can and will be delivered in a timely manner to help people out of this difficult situation we all recognise that we're in. Deputy Ward Mark Ward from Sinn Féin in regard to the issue of data centres, and a number of deputies raised it. We have to manage data centres differently. There's no out for any sector. There's no one industry can say, we're not part of the responsible solution here. And we are starting to do that. In Tala, he'll be aware of it, data centre being built at the moment where the waste heat from that data centre is being used to house the council offices and the university and local buildings. So we can do that elsewhere. What people said here, what benefit do those data centres bring? Well, if we start thinking and designing them in that way, where they're part of local energy solutions, where that waste heat, and heat is the biggest problem in data centres, that starts them being part of the solution is what we can do. Deputy O'Brien, again from Sinn Féin, I would agree and absolutely agree with him in what he said in terms of the need to look at the built environment and particularly the need to switch away from steel, concrete, cement and thinking about the embodied carbon in buildings, and he's absolutely right. These new technologies where cross-laminated timbers give us building materials where we have an abundant resource supply in our forest system. Well, they put it all over the country. Well, we have to change that and mend that. We have to develop those Irish companies. We have to develop those Irish companies to deliver those solutions. Deputy Verona Murphy, I would say the ESB is one such company that over the history of this state has done a huge job of service to the Irish people, and they will do so again now. They have a critical role in delivering all the solutions we need at a local level and also thinking big about the big offshore and other projects. It is the likes of the ESB and Bord na Mónas and Coilse's, state companies, public companies, working for us, owned by us, which I believe will be part of the solution. Deputy Shannon, I was disappointed that research arm in WIT didn't get the funding on the multi-species sword. And I hope they will come back and look for it again and stick with it, because it may take time and it may take persistence. But when it comes to wind research he mentioned, primarily now the research will be the art of doing and the art of delivering. It will be applied research from what we learned by actually going big and going scale off our shores. And Deputy O'Cahasey knows that for the likes of Waterford, the likes of Wexford, I hope his sons will be able to rest and sleep at night, because even if the window's closing rapidly, which it is and it's very tight, it's by acting. It's by taking those steps, as you say. And it's never too late. It's never the wrong thing to do, particularly because for your sons and daughters, all our sons and daughters, this is a better alternative way to go. This is the way the new world, global economy is going. And we happen to have the best resource. We have an advantage that we can turn to. Can I say Deputy Gould again from Sinn Féin? I agree with him in terms of the need for the taxi fleet to be ahead of the game. And yes, if I go back and check with the NTA in terms of that new grant system that we put in place, in terms of making sure that it is getting a fast turnaround. But one thing is sure, those taxi drivers I've talked to, and I take a lot of taxis, are actually saying that, you know what, it's a fraction of the fuel cost. These are really good cars. Well, but you're correct. We need to lead by public example in the public service. Again, in Deputy O'Leary, I again agree with him. Public service has to lead by putting solar panels on our building, particularly schools. But I would say, Deputy O'Leary, and I'm going to follow this on with a number of different deputies, that the Port of Cork, more than any other place, Shannon Estuary probably second to it, is the area where we will see huge potential in terms of developing this offshore wind. And not just in the energy side, the energy generation side, but in the applications of that to deliver industry in Cork. And I would follow that on, if I can, with my rural independent colleagues, Deputy McGrath, Healy-Rae, Collins and others, to make this point again, that this is actually going to be good, particularly for the west, southwest, northwest, southeast of Ireland, because that's where the resource is strongest. It is in the likes of Bantry Bay we will bring the power ashore, or in Shannon Estuary, or in Cork Harbour. And not just bring the power ashore, but send those ships, Deputy Collins, you absolutely hear what you're saying about the cost of fuel making it very difficult for trawlers and fishermen at the moment. But the answer to that is not to turn our backs on what the likes of our ports can actually become, as well as fishing centres, but actually the centres of this new industry. And Deputy Healy-Rae and Deputy Carol Nolan, in terms of no one seeks to divide, no one seeks to speak down, or treat anyone with disrespect. The reality of what we can do, the reality of what we can do.
You've wrecked it.
Please. You've had your chance. I've had my chance. Thank you. We're going to let the Minister speak uninterrupted. Thank you.
The reality of what we can do is what we are doing. 400 houses a month now, going up for 170 a month last year on the Warmer Home Scheme. So we clear that backlog. And that is practical and that is real, and it's happening in the Midlands. It's happening particularly in the Midlands, because that's the area where we targeted first in terms of retrofitting. It is happening, and that role of Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland in meeting what we've set out in a retrofit is going to be key. Deputy Murnane O'Connor, we will deliver that bus service for Carlow. Deputy Farrell, it isn't just Shannon and Cork Harbour that while they will be the centres of development, the other area where the offshore wind will come ashore first is in Dublin. And that will require significant investment in upgrade of the grid in Dublin, which will not be without its challenges. But that will also guarantee and secure the industries in the Greater Dublin area to help pay for all the public services that we need. Deputy Lascancorla, you're right to voice frustration about the lack of progress in Galway over the years. I hope the Circular Economy Bill, which has gone through report second stage and comes back to the Dáil at committee stage next month, can be the answer to that anguish I heard you speak about the need to develop recycling and to need to develop the likes of wool and seaweed and other materials which will help us create a circular economy here. I believe that legislation is actually fully progressive and in line with the sort of recycling ambition and vision that you have. So let's bring it back to committee stage and let's deliver it and then deliver the actions that promise that it brings. Deputy McNamara, those sector targets won't come back to the Dáil for a vote. But at every stage in this process, what we are doing is using the Oireachtas Committee, which Deputy Ledden chairs, in the same way that we did in the last Dáil. Committees are critically important. The committees, the Oireachtas Climate Committee, more than any other committee or more than any other agency, has had huge impact on the development of climate policy in this country the last 5 years. And if we can do that in the same way the next 5 years, we will meet these challenging budgets and targets. Deputy Fitzmaurice, when you say that we won't go offshore until 2032, that's not good enough, and those timelines are too long.
Well, you'll see with planning. You know this country.
We
can't take a drop of water in Roscommon 2 miles, not a mind to go bring the winter or put wind turbines out in the sea.
But what we're going to have to do...
We're letting people drown in Roscommon and we're talking about building 200-metre masts abroad in the sea.
What we're going to have to do, not only to meet our climate budgets and our climate targets, but also respond to this energy crisis, which is because of our reliance on fossil fuels, is we're going to have to accelerate in sustainable mobility, in the retrofitting of our buildings, and in offshore, so that the first projects the energy starts to come ashore in the years 26 and 27, not 32. And everything we're going to do in this remaining 3 years of this government is to make that a reality. And the benefit for us as a country then is we are not paying for expensive imported fossil gas. I just want to finish. I wanted to get to every single deputy, and I'm fearful I might have left one out. I think Deputy Fitzmaurice, you had the last word. These budgets set the ambition. Going back to what Deputy Paul Murphy said at the start, are they in line with the science? We set up a climate advisory committee, which was the best climate scientists in our country. They're the ones who set this incredibly challenging leap we have to make. We know that every other country in the world is going to be trying to do it at the same time. I believe we can and will be good at this. It will only work if we do it in a way where we're listening to our people, engaging them, helping communities, looking at it as an opportunity to turn to economic advantage, to protect our incomes and deliver social justice and a just transition at the same time. That's what these carbon budgets allow us to do. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. The debate.
Greens, Dr. Something or other has said this is not the time for another carbon tax increase. One of your own,
have you completed?
Dr. Something or other, I can't think of her name, but she said it yesterday.